Okay. Onegaishimasu. Okay, so start with a few moments of zazen, tuning in, noticing the body, noticing the breath, letting the body open and release and settle, consciously releasing the abdomen, allowing the breath to settle and become free. And relating to the out breath as the releasing breath. The back crown of the head points directly to the ceiling as the weight settles, filters down through the upright structure, settling at the lowest points. And that only continues with each out breath. And then emphasize the settling into the floor or the flowing down, the relaxing down, and let that have that opposite action of sending you up. Slowly, just only increase that down force to press you up. And whatever you're able to capture of that feeling, maintain that in your standing. And it can continue to inform the posture as we stand, and can continue to open up the posture, including the space between the joints. And we'll take a step forward, shift the weight forward and back, maintaining that vertical uprightness, and letting the arms just sway and swing, not moving on their own. They're only moving because of the general body movement. And let the weight of the arms and hands coax the shoulder joints open, releasing the abdomen, hang the tailbone. Tailbone's pointing straight down to the floor, back crown of the head pointing straight up to the ceiling. Everything in between is open and becoming empty. Pressing the leg and the foot down into the ground sends you back, pressing through the back foot to send you forward. And switching sides. Letting the feet open. Each time you press down through the leg and foot, let that pressure open the bones in the foot. So the feet actually start to spread, become wider as they relax and open. And the pressing down, the weight through, just increases that opening and spreading. The belly releases, the shoulders sit. The shoulder joints open, elbow joints release. The chin is down a little bit. That's created also by the top, back of the crown pointing straight up. And with the tailbone pointing down, the spine becomes this long, like a lightning rod, becomes this conduit for the energy to move up and down through that shape. So the spine and the vertical shape in general becomes this open conduit or vessel for the energy force of the ground to come up, and also from energies to move down. The relaxation moves freely down to that vertical column, and the force, ground force, moves up through the ground path. So that nice vertical straight spine becomes this open conduit for movement of energies. It's most effective and efficient to focus on the down. That's primary. And then we get more open and refined to allow the rising energy as well. But there's a lot that has to happen for releasing, relaxing, opening, softening, relaxing of the body. So a lot of that conditioning and cultivating has to occur. So we very much emphasize that the down direction, releasing direction, flowing down, softening and releasing down. That's the main part of the work for some time. And as the body becomes more open, more empty in a sense, a better conduit, then we actually have both directions happening at the same time. Much more equal. And let's go into a light horse stance and let's do a little bit of arm swings, staying that same relaxed quality, nice and open and vertical, so avoiding any leaning. So even when my weight is over on one side, I'm not tilting, I'm actually still hanging vertical. Just that my vertical axis has shifted to here, and shifted to here. It's just like I'm just standing straight, hanging out here. Because there's a tendency, of course, to lean. So besides the body cultivation that we get from arm swings, opening the joints, relaxing, weight underside, we're learning to keep that integrity of that verticality. Releasing the abdomen. We're learning to not throw our mass around and not heave our body. So that's one of the very important basic principles that we're training, to not throw the mass around, but we're just transporting that vertical column, rotating around that vertical axis and just sliding that vertical axis, not throwing the weight around. And once we really, really relax, settle, and have that dropping, that weight settling, weight underside, that allows us to sink more into the hips and creates more flexibility, a stretch in the hip ligaments, tendons. We want to settle and sink. We can add a little extra turn by coming up on the ball, that 1 foot. Again, notice if we're tending to lean and separate from the ground, separate the upper body from the lower body. So this is more movement. So there's going to be an easier kind of fall over or lean. So can I stay nice and vertical? So if I illustrate, come here, I should still be stable vertical, even if I have everything on one side. So I don't want to be this kind of thing. This is compromised. For example, take this into technique. If I'm doing Aikido, you can see this is not the alignment that we want. Compromised, leaning, I'm unorganized, disintegrated. I want to be owning my own shape, owning my own weights. So I wouldn't want to do this in a technique. So we want to be careful that we're not doing something like that in our warm-ups and body conditioning exercises. So it's all training, becoming keener awareness, more and more acutely aware in our body and around our body, and noticing any deviations in our principles. And let's go into forward and back again, similar to the arm swings we were doing, forward and back, but now it'll be more specifically Minucci. So a bit more of a clear classic shape, but the same feeling and quality as the arm swings that we've been doing. Just a bit more clear, intentional vectors. So I'm not making that more specific shape by using specific muscle efforting. The clear, more specific shape is because of intentional vectors. So once your body relaxes and opens and releases, your shape, your form, it's not made by holding yourself in place with your muscles. Your shape and your form is made by intentional flow, intentional vectors. But for that to really occur, the body has to become soft and open. The body has to become a good vessel for the mind and the spirit. So that's a very common phrase in the internal martial arts. Developing a body that's an empty vessel. A good, clean, clear conduit for mind and spirit. So again, notice if there's some leaning. Notice if there's any firing in these muscles back here, these long muscles along the spine. That's a clear sign that I'm leaning because those muscles are being triggered to keep me up. If I'm true to the vertical line of gravity, those muscles won't have to fire. All the tissues are being relaxed and drained down. So of course that means I have to move the hips forward, technically, hips have to come forward, and the upper body is just being transported. Pressing down the back foot, sends you back, or down the front foot, sends you back. Release down. And that's an even better feeling and approach is releasing down. So at first we say press down, push down, but of course those terms have a sense of doing and striving. But that's how we have to start. Press down to send me back, push down to send me forward. But going further along that development becomes refined, and instead of pushing, becomes releasing down, releasing down, releasing down. And that has a quality of the body is active, but it's staying open and only opening. These doing words, these doing things, pressing down, pushing down, that's a contracting essence. At least then coming from the legs, the lower body, from the floor. So that's a good step in the right direction. But pressing, pushing down, inherently within those words, and then that type of work is a contracting, a tightening, forcing. So eventually it can make more and more sense, and the body is able to be more subtle and open, that it's actually just a releasing down, a releasing down, a releasing down. So rather than a contraction quality, the pressing, there's actually an opening quality in that work. We're still doing certain work, we're using the body, but the body stays open and empty. So we've used that imagery before of pipes, like a furnace pipe or a PCV pipe. It's empty. The entire body becomes empty, or again, that conduit. Now let's see if we can take that into our strike, Shomanuchi, Yokonuchi. We were touching upon that last time. So let's continue with kind of a refined review of the Shomo strikes, and then we'll take it into your program. So all those things that we've been talking about, exploring, feeling, let's take that into a movement that could be called a strike. So what that means the first things I might say about that is, I don't want to be tight, contract here, contract here. Of course, that's what people do. They strike. They tighten up. They use muscle. They use a lot of contraction, force. But try to take the same feeling from these arm swings, relaxing, pressing down, the body being open and empty to let that force move through the body. So as I go into a basic Hami no Kamae, slightly forward, let's just contract a little bit. Let's contrast by contracting and then opening. So again, a normal way of holding posture is a little bit tight. So go into some tightness. Hold yourself with your muscles. Your muscles are holding yourself into place. Your muscles are making you have like extension. So the shape isn't bad. We're always talking about basic shape is we want good extension, not collapsed, not tight in. We have a fairly good shape, but we can be holding it with muscle, contraction. Of course, everybody does that at first. Then change that to the body just being open. But first, allow the down, weight underside. Tai Chi, famous saying is, there's a string suspending the head from above or hanging. So everything that allows the hips to hang, the spine to lengthen. So if you can imagine it, you're just kind of hanging out, suspended from above, that creates those things we want. Releases the abdomen, sits the shoulders, all the things we want. Hangs the tailbone. So hold that, let's contrast. Hold it with your muscles and have good shape, but hold it with your muscles. Now contrast that with opening up the body, letting the weight fall through the upper body, through the hips, through the legs, into the ground, and let your body become empty and open. So when we release down, let the weight sink and fall, we don't want a collapsation, a condensing or folding in. We want to create the opposite result. Releasing down, relaxing down, empties the body, opens the body, inflates the body, becomes filled with emptiness. So it sounds like a paradox. Drain everything down so the body becomes emptied and open. So you have clean, clear structure, a nice big shape. It's because your body is open, released, emptied. In fact, the more you can hang the hips, allow the weight to fall through the hips and legs, the more it opens you up. Lower body becomes anchored, full, entering the ground, sinking, and that has a direct result, proportional result of opening and emptying the upper body. Now let's see if we can take that feeling into some movement, in this case, Shomanuchi. Now, technically, mechanically, you know that turning that hip forward is what's going to drive the elbow forward and up. But try to do that by an opening quality. Opening, flowing, expansive quality. So the strike literally happens because of an expansive quality, flowing quality. The body is open and empty enough that mind, intent can just flow through the body and make the body move. So that hip turns, that's pressing down the back leg, or releasing down the back leg to turn the hip, and everything expands, and lengthens right over center line, right to and through the center line. So the process of joining the mind and body connected by the body relaxing, releasing, and opening. So the mind direction, mind intention can move freely through the body and direct the body cleanly. You have high fidelity. The body, the mind have high fidelity. Very clean accuracy because they are coming together as one. Now, that will probably help with this backhand. What becomes the backhand? We're talking about how this might end up being forgotten about a little bit, goes to sleep, it's a little bit dead. If I'm staying open and empty, the living energy is able to move freely in all directions, through all sides, so that this arm and hand is just as active and alive as this one, because you are filled with presence, filled with intention. So if I do this, and this one is not involved too much, I'm one-sided, and it becomes very, very obvious after a while when you're one-sided and you're not full and complete, not fully open. So letting this open, release, empty, and flow. Now everything becomes equal and the same regardless of what move I'm doing. And work both sides. Okay, now let's do some yokemen. Same, exactly the same feeling, same process. Nothing is different. The only thing that changes is as I step, that foot, which really means the hip, just turns ever so slightly. I'll exaggerate it. So that means the trajectory of this hand and arm changes. But it's not because I'm doing it with the arm. It's not because I'm flexing these muscles, the pectoral muscles or deltoid muscle to come this way, because that would just be the arm doing it or the chest muscle doing it. That's just from here out. So that's very separate, very isolated. So it's not because I'm firing any muscles in my arm to make that angle. It's because my body is creating that angle, making that turn. And that's because my intentional flow is making that happen. So as I step, that front foot, which means actually the whole leg from the hip, slight angle. So everything's the same, start the same, right up center line. As that foot lands, has a slight angle to it. And so the arm is just true to the body. So of course that happens from the lower body. And just work with that same feeling of openness. As you strike, your arms only get longer. The shoulder joints only open more. The sword just gets longer as you cut with the sword. Let the whole body turn just slightly to cause that yokemen angle. So I'm going to talk a little bit about timing of the movement. So let me break that down a little bit. So talking mechanically, so as you know, the turning of that back hip, again, mechanically, that comes from pressing down that back leg, back foot, send the hip forward. So that part we pretty much know. So that's going to drive the arm up. And if I keep pressing that back leg into the ground, which keeps turning my hip, that makes the step. So it's not that I turn my hip, which raises my arm, and then I step. My step is not separate. My step is made. I'm pushed forward. The step is forced. Now, if I don't do it that way, I think you can probably notice that my step is empty. So if you can watch, I'll show you. So I'll start off, okay, I turn the hips, which drives the arm up, drives the elbow forward, turning the hip. Now I'm going to just step separately. It's an empty step. So I start with good mechanics, good connection. Then I step, and then I maybe turn my hips and cut. But that step was empty. Can you see that? So here it's full because it's coming from that hip turn, which is coming from the back leg, pressing into the ground. So this is full. I step, and then I continue with a body movement. That step is actually empty. So let me exaggerate, or not even exaggerate, but emphasize it. I won't even use the arm, so it's very clear. I keep pressing down, turn the hip. It peels off the foot. I press down, keep pressing down, peels off the foot and makes the step happen. If at any point in there, so I press down to turn the hip, starts to peel off the foot. If at any point in there, I separate by taking a step, it's an empty step. It's empty. So if any point, if I disengage from that dynamic, from those mechanics, then so I start out okay, and I got to step, it's time to step, okay, step. That's an empty part. It's not full, it's not connected, not interconnected. So every part's connected, every part's driven, all the gears are all driving everything. So that would be like, I start off with the gears nicely meshed and driving the machine, and then I step, and then I reconnect it for the rest of the strike. I start off really good, hips and everything, the gears are driving the movement. I step, and then I reconnect. So it takes a lot of concentration and patience to keep it the whole way. So I don't step, I keep doing the principle, mechanic, the step happens for me. The step occurs. The step is made to happen by doing the principle of the hip turn, or that leg press makes the step. And we talked about this in the Kokyonage, right? Remember Kokyonage, ninth kyu, or Gyakute. I turn the hip, makes a step. I turn the hip, forces a step. Now Kokyonage, that's a really good one to learn this mechanic in, because if my partner is pretty strong, or just holding fairly solidly, you know what happens, right? If I step too soon or step without an integration, I can be stymied. I can be stopped. So maybe I'm lucky enough to get this far, and I start to turn the hips here as well, but I step too soon. I don't let the hips do all the work. I try to step from here. I can get stopped at any point. I can get stopped early on the first step. I get that part okay, or my partner just lets me. At any point, if I disengage the gears, those mechanics, at any point, even at the very end, I can get stopped. So that Kokyonage is really good to learn that with, because we have the connection, a bit of resistance, so that when the gears become separate, if my partner has good structure, it reveals those holes, those openings. Oh, I'm not grounded, I'm not integrated, I'm not coming from the mechanics, the gears. So we want to bring that into strike. It's the same whether it's Shomen or Yokumin. It's all the same. This applies universally to everything. I turn the hip by pressing down the back leg, and that makes the step for me. So you were, in a sense, pushed into the step, driven into the step. The hip turn peels off the back foot, continuing to press from that back foot into the ground, turns the hip, peels off the foot, and that process continues, making the step happen, which is what's driving the arm. So I call that a full feeling. I use the term fullness. There is a full feeling when I have that connection. And when I have the connection throughout the whole move, there's a feeling of fullness. And I use that word empty to contrast that word when I lose it. It's an empty step. I'm using that word empty in a negative context right now. Sometimes earlier on, we were talking about emptiness as being this nice quality we want in the body. So this is in a negative context. So everything should be full, or everything is irimi, entering. Everything is full, full. Here's empty. Everything is full. So turning the front foot when it lands a little bit, so it's a yokumen, slight angle. Okay, now in this actual program, 7th Q program, we're combining footwork with this strike. So we're going to combine Irimi Sugiyashi with Shomen and Yokumen. So we'll start Shomen. And as I do that footwork, I do Shomen strike. Let me do a couple towards the camera. So as I do Sugiyashi, I do a Yokumen. And for this, it's going to be Yokumen on the front side. Up until now, we've been doing the strikes with the back arm. Back arm becomes the front arm. So for this one, for this footwork, Sugiyashi, it's the front arm. It stays the front arm. So it looks like this. So Yokumen, straight up, straight down, center line. And we just do that with the Sugiyashi. Okay, so let's have Hidari, left side forward. Good Hamino Kamai, so weight slightly forward into the left leg. Do Sugiyashi and Shomen. So let's do a few together here. So each, now let's pause here. Now did the right hand, the backhand, did that kind of go away, become less alive? Because we have to think about footwork and timing and coordination. And we know we're moving the front arm, left arm. We might have forgotten about the right one. Maybe it went a little bit dead. So keep everything equally alive. Knee. Still on a forward stance. San. Chi. The right hand is very active. It's on center line too. Whoa. Roke. Teach. Ach. So let's do that on the other side. So Migi Hanmi. So you press off the back foot to move the Sugiyashi, and pressing off the back foot raises the arm. As that foot slides into its position at the angle, that's the cut. Each. Eat. San. Chi. Go. Rok. Sich. Touch. Good. That's the timing. That's the coordination. Good. Now we'll do the same thing. Showman strike still, but now the other footwork. Irimi Ayumi. So that's going to be Irimi Ayumi. So now that will be the back hand. That becomes the front hand. So let's start that together. So right side forward. That's going to be Irimi Ayumi. That means it'll be the back hand, in this case, the left hand. That's the striking showman arm. So still showman. So Irimi Ayumi, showman uchi. Make sure the back hand, right hand, is still active and viable. A couple more times mechanically. Let's review that. So Irimi Ayumi, showman. Both hand blades are active and alive. Pushing off that back foot, pushing off the left foot, drives the elbow forward, arm up. The right leg coming back into position is the cut. Okay, so here we go. Each. Ni. San. Chi. Okay. Now, just let me put this into context. If someone's coming towards you, charging towards you, punching towards you, what have you, you're getting out of the way and intercepting with a strike. So you're getting out of the way, blending with their attack, and meeting them with that strike. So you're getting out of the way and meeting their movement in with that strike. Yeah, so imagine an incoming energy. Yes. You're getting offline and intercepting that incoming energy with that mental strike, the energetic cut. You're meeting it with an energetic cut. I'll come towards you a couple times. Nice. Okay, let's end with a little bit of misogi. Breathing in, opening, expanding. Breathing out, settling, centering. Releasing the abdomen, allowing the joints to be open and released. The body is soft, but the mind is very clear and sharp. Body is released. The mind is very active and directional. So the body is yin, the mind is yang. Settling back to the center. Some nice, mindful abdominal breaths. Out breath is a releasing breath. Okay, let's bow out.